Cancel everything, I said into the phone, my voice steadier than my hands. The silence on the other end stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Then Jennifer Morrison, my event coordinator, finally spoke. Mrs. Chen, I'm not sure I understand. Cancel what, exactly? The entire 70th birthday gala. The venue rental, the catering, the wine service, all of it. But ma'am, the event is in 3 days. Your mother-in-law's party is no longer my concern. I watched the October rain streak down my office window, blurring the Chicago skyline. Send the cancellation notices immediately. Another pause. Mrs. Chen, I need to clarify something. Your husband called this morning with specific instructions about the event. My grip on the phone tightened. What kind of instructions? He said you were stepping back from the planning due to a family situation, but that all vendor payments should proceed as scheduled using the card on file. Your card. The anger came slowly, like a wave building far offshore. Did he mention that I've been uninvited? Jennifer's sharp intake of breath told me she hadn't known. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. But Mrs. Chen, technically the contract is under your mother-in-law's name. I'm not certain we have the authority to. Jennifer. I kept my voice level, professional. Who owns Luminescence Events? You do, ma'am. And who owns Azure Catering Group? A longer pause this time. Also you. And Morrison Wine Distribution? Oh. Her voice went very small. Oh my God. That's also you're the owner? I built my business over 15 years, Jennifer. I started with one small catering van and a dream. Now I own or have controlling partnerships in 17 of the top event vendors in Chicago, including every single one servicing my mother-in-law's party. I pulled up the event file on my computer, scanning the vendor list. So when I say cancel everything, I have every authority to do exactly that. Yes, ma'am. I'll begin the process immediately. Thank you. And Jennifer? When my husband calls and he will tell him he needs to speak with me directly. I ended the call and sat very still in my corner office, the one I'd earned through years of 18-hour days and taking risks others thought were reckless. Through my window, I could see the renovated warehouse district where I'd opened my first real kitchen 12 years ago. The building now housed Azure Catering's flagship operation, with 200 employees and contracts with half the major venues in the city. My phone buzzed. Michael's mother. I let it ring through to voicemail, then listened to the message. Victoria. Darling. I hope you understand this is nothing personal. Michael explained you've been so overwhelmed with work lately, and we thought you'd appreciate not having the stress of attending. You've been so generous with the financial contribution, and we're deeply grateful. We'll take plenty of photos for you. Love you, dear. The casual cruelty of it took my breath away. Not invited to an event I'd paid $55,000 to host. An event using my venues, my staff, my wine selection that I'd personally curated. I pulled up the contract files and started making notes. The event space, the grand ballroom at Riverside Estate, was one of my properties. Purchased 6 years ago when the previous owners retired. The catering was obviously mine. The wine distribution deal I'd brokered personally with 3 California vineyards. Even the floral arrangements were being handled by a company I had a partnership stake in. My phone rang again. Michael this time. Vic, Mom said you're not returning her calls. I was working. I swiveled my chair to face the window, watching the city pulse with afternoon traffic. Your mother left an interesting voicemail. Look, I can explain. Explain what, exactly? That you and your mother decided I shouldn't attend her birthday party? Or that you expected me to continue funding an event I'm not welcome at? It's not like that. His voice had that edge it got when he knew he was wrong but couldn't admit it. Mom was worried you'd feel obligated to work the event instead of enjoying it. You always do that, you can't help yourself. She thought you'd be more relaxed if you weren't there. Michael. I spoke slowly, enunciating each word. If she wanted me to relax, she could have hired different vendors. She could have insisted I attend as a guest, not a planner. Instead, she uninvited me and expected me to pay for the privilege of my own exclusion. You're overreacting. It's one party. It's your mother's 70th birthday celebration. I've been planning it for 6 months. I've spent hours selecting the menu, choosing wines, coordinating with the venue staff. My voice remained calm, which seemed to unnerve him more than if I'd shouted. And neither of you thought to discuss this with me before making the decision? We talked about it last week at Sunday dinner. You said you were slammed with the Anderson wedding and might not make it. I said I might be late, Michael. Not that I didn't want to come. I pulled up my calendar, looking at the red-blocked time I'd reserved for his mother's party. Did it occur to you to ask me directly? Mom didn't want to stress you out. So she uninvited me without telling me. The pieces were clicking into place. When exactly were you planning to inform me? His silence was answer enough. Were you going to tell me at all? Or was I supposed to figure it out when I arrived at the venue and found my name not on the guest list? That's not Vic, you're being dramatic. There it was. The word that always ended our arguments. Dramatic. As if having feelings about being excluded and used was somehow unreasonable. I've cancelled the event, I said. You what? I called Jennifer Morrison 20 minutes ago. The venue rental is cancelled, the catering is cancelled. The wine delivery is cancelled. All of it. You can't do that. His voice pitched higher. The party is in 3 days. I can and I did. Vic, this is Mom's 70th birthday. You're really going to ruin it because you're upset about one little thing? One little thing. I repeated the words slowly. Michael, do you know why your mother chose Riverside Estate for the venue? Because it's the nicest place in Chicago? Because I own it. Do you know why she selected Azure Catering? He didn't answer. Because I own that too. The wine? I have exclusive distribution rights with the vineyards she requested. The flowers? I'm a partner in that company. The valet service? I own it. The event coordinator she's been working with? Jennifer Morrison works for me. I let that sink in. Your mother has been planning her dream party using my companies, my staff, and my money. And when she decided I was too working class to attend, she somehow thought those arrangements would continue without me. Jesus Christ, Vic, not everything is about you and your business empire. You're right. It's about respect. It's about being valued as a family member, not just as a checkbook. I stood, gathering my things. I've been married to you for 12 years, Michael. I've attended every single Chen family event, written checks for your brother's business ventures, hosted your parents when they visit. And the one time your mother gets to celebrate a milestone, I'm not good enough to attend? She never said that. She didn't have to. I grabbed my coat. I'm going home. You can stay at your mother's tonight while you help her find new vendors. Vic, please. Can we just talk about this? We are talking. I'm telling you that I'm done being treated like a convenient resource instead of a family member. I headed for the door. I've already authorized refunds for the deposits. Your mother will need to make new arrangements. She'll never forgive you for this. I'm oddly okay with that. I hung up and walked out, nodding to my assistant. I'm leaving for the day. If Mr. Chen calls, tell him I'm unavailable. The drive home took 40 minutes in rush hour traffic, giving me plenty of time to question my decision. Was I being petty? Was this an overreaction, like Michael said? But every time I thought about backing down, I remembered the casual dismissal in Margaret Chen's voicemail. The assumption that I'd be grateful to be excluded. The complete lack of consideration for my feelings. I'd built my business from nothing. At 23, I'd been fired from a catering company for not being a team player, which translated to refusing to pad bills and overcharge clients. I'd taken my final paycheck, bought a used catering van, and started knocking on doors. Small parties, corporate lunches, anything to build a client base. The first 5 years were brutal. 18-hour days, maxed credit cards, living on instant ramen while investing every dollar back into the business. I'd missed weddings, funerals, birthdays, my own and others. I'd sacrificed relationships, health, sleep. But I'd built something real. Azure Catering now employed 230 people, many of them women like me who'd been told they weren't good enough. Luminescence Events coordinated over 500 events a year. Morrison Wine Distribution, named after my grandmother, had contracts with 43 restaurants and venues across 3 states. And Margaret Chen thought I was too much of an embarrassment to attend her party. My phone rang continuously during the drive. Michael. His mother. His brother, James. I let them all go to voicemail. At home, I poured a glass of the same Pinot Noir I'd selected for Margaret's party, a 2019 vintage from a small Oregon vineyard I'd discovered during a sourcing trip. Ironic that she'd requested this specific wine without knowing I'd spent 3 days touring the vineyard, negotiating exclusive rights, building the relationship that made it available to her. The voicemails were predictable. Michael, increasingly frantic, begging me to reconsider. Margaret, oscillating between wounded mother-in-law and imperious matriarch, demanding I fix the misunderstanding. James, trying to mediate but clearly siding with his mother. My phone rang again. This time, a number I didn't recognize. Victoria Chen. Mrs. Chen, this is David Park from Riverside Estate. He sounded nervous. I apologize for calling your personal number, but there's been some confusion regarding the Chen party this Saturday. No confusion, David. I've cancelled the event. Yes, ma'am, I received that notification. However, Mrs. Margaret Chen is here at the venue right now, and she's quite upset. She's saying there's been a mistake, that she's the client and has the right to. I own Riverside Estate, David. Margaret Chen is not the client. She never was. I extended her the professional courtesy of using my venue for a family event. That courtesy has been revoked. I understand, ma'am. But she's threatening legal action, and she has her son, I believe your husband, with her, and they're demanding to speak with management. I checked my watch. 5:30. Tell them management will meet them in the lobby in 45 minutes. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I finished my wine and changed into a business suit. If Margaret wanted to threaten legal action at my own venue, I'd treat this as any other business meeting. The drive back into the city felt surreal. I'd been to Riverside Estate hundreds of times, but never like this. Never as the owner confronting family members who tried to use my resources while excluding me from the event. David met me in the parking lot, looking relieved. They're in the South Conference Room. Mrs. Chen insisted on speaking somewhere private. Thank you, David. I straightened my shoulders and walked in. Margaret and Michael sat at the conference table, Margaret in full makeup and pearls despite the late hour. She stood when I entered. Victoria, thank goodness. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. No misunderstanding. I remained standing, keeping the table between us. You uninvited me from your party while expecting me to continue funding it. When I declined, you came to my place of business to make demands. Your place of Victoria, this is a venue. Yes, you own some catering company, but I own this venue, Margaret. I own Riverside Estate. I bought it 6 years ago. She blinked. That's not Michael. Did you know about this? Michael's face had gone pale. I thought you just catered here sometimes. No. I own the building, the grounds, and the business. When you signed the rental contract, you signed with my company. I pulled out my phone and brought up the contract. See? Riverside Estate, LLC. Registered owner, Victoria Chen. That's me. Margaret sat down heavily. But I chose this venue because Catherine Richardson had her retirement party here. She said it was independent, family-owned. It is family-owned. By me. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Did you really think I spent 15 years building businesses and somehow never mentioned owning one of Chicago's premier event venues? You never talk about work, Michael said weakly. Because every time I do, your mother changes the subject. Remember last Christmas when I mentioned the Morrison wine acquisition? She asked me if I'd considered volunteering with her garden club instead of working so much. Margaret's face flushed. I was concerned about your stress levels. You were concerned about my profession. You've made it very clear that you don't approve of my career, my background, or my working-class values. I used her own words from a conversation she'd had with Michael 2 months ago, one I'd overheard but never acknowledged. But you had no problem using my companies when they served your purposes. This is ridiculous. Margaret stood again, gathering her purse. Michael, we'll find another venue. There are plenty of places in Chicago that don't come with this level of drama. Good luck. I kept my voice pleasant. Most of the premium venues are booked months in advance. And the ones that aren't? I have partnerships or vendor relationships with most of them. Word travels fast in this industry. Are you threatening me? No. I'm stating facts. You have 3 days to plan a major event. In that time frame, you'll need to find a venue, catering, wine service, florals, valet parking, and a coordinator willing to pull together a last-minute event for 200 guests. I counted off on my fingers. The vendors you were using, my vendors, are all unavailable. They're loyal to me, not to clients who disrespect me. So yes, you'll find someone. But it won't be the party you planned. Michael finally spoke. Vic, please. I'm sorry. We both are. Can't we work this out? Work what out, exactly? I really looked at him and realized I was seeing our marriage clearly for the first time. You want me to fund a party I'm not invited to. You want me to provide my venue, my staff, my professional expertise for an event where I'm not welcome. And you think an apology fixes that? What do you want? Margaret's voice was sharp. Money? Is that what this is about? Fine. We'll pay for the event ourselves. With what money? The question came out harder than I'd intended. Your husband retired 5 years ago. You live on his pension and Social Security. James borrowed $20,000 from us last year for his restaurant idea, which failed, by the way. Michael hasn't held a steady job in 3 years. I'd never said it out loud before. Never pointed out that I'd been the sole breadwinner for our entire marriage. So, where exactly are you going to find $55,000 in 3 days? The silence was damning. That's what I thought. I pulled out a folder I'd prepared before leaving home. These are the cancellation confirmations. All deposits have been refunded to my corporate accounts. If you'd like to discuss reimbursement for the initial payment you never actually made, we can address that separately. Margaret's face had gone from red to white. You can't do this. I already have. I set the folder on the table. The contracts were in my name. The vendors are my company's. I have every legal right to cancel services I'm providing. But my party, my 70th birthday, will need to be replanned. I suggest you start immediately. Saturday is only 3 days away. I turned to leave, then paused. And Margaret? Next time you want to uninvite someone from a family event, make sure you're not depending on their resources to host it. I walked out before either of them could respond. The next 3 days were chaos. Michael called 67 times, I counted. Margaret called 42 times. James, various Chen family members, even Margaret's sister called to tell me I was being unreasonable, cruel, vindictive. I blocked them all and focused on work. The Anderson wedding, the one Michael had referenced, went off flawlessly. The bride cried when she saw the custom floral installations I'd designed. The groom's father, a food critic, called our menu transcendent. I stood in the back of the venue, watching 200 guests celebrate love, and felt the familiar satisfaction of a job done well. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Sarah, Michael's cousin. I'm sorry to bother you, but I thought you should know they're having the party at James's apartment. Margaret is devastated. She's telling everyone you destroyed her special day. Please reconsider. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me felt guilty. 70 was a milestone. Despite everything, Margaret was still Michael's mother. But then I remembered the voicemail. The casual dismissal. The assumption that I'd be grateful to be excluded. I texted back, I'm sorry Margaret is upset. I hope she has a lovely celebration with her family. The party happened on Saturday. I spent the day at a different event, a corporate gala I'd been planning for months. At 9 p.m., as I supervised the breakdown and cleanup, my phone rang. An actual phone call, not a text. From Michael. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won out. Victoria. His voice was flat, exhausted. The party's over. I hope it went well. It was a disaster. James's apartment can barely hold 40 people. We had to turn away half the guests. The caterer Mom found gave everyone food poisoning. Well, not poisoning, but the shrimp was definitely off. The wine was from Costco. She cried for 2 hours. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? His voice turned bitter. Because from where I'm sitting, you got exactly what you wanted. You humiliated my mother on her 70th birthday. You proved you have all the power. Congratulations, Vic. You win. This wasn't about winning, Michael. Then what was it about? Revenge? Proving a point? It was about respect. I sat down on a stack of folding chairs, suddenly exhausted. Your mother has never respected what I do. She's never respected who I am. And you enabled that. For 12 years, I've been the dutiful daughter-in-law, the generous benefactor, the invisible checkbook. I'm done with that role. So you destroyed her party. No. I withdrew my support from an event I wasn't welcome at. There's a difference. She wants to apologize. He sounded defeated. She asked me to tell you she's sorry. Tell her I accept her apology. But that doesn't change anything. What does that mean? I looked around the empty ballroom, at the life I'd built through sheer determination. It means I'm moving into the guest room when I get home. It means we need to have some serious conversations about our marriage. It means I'm not going to keep being treated like my only value is my bank account. Vic. I'm tired, Michael. I'm tired of being the only adult in this relationship. I'm tired of funding your family's lifestyle. I'm tired of being disrespected. My voice cracked slightly. I'm tired of being married to someone who doesn't stand up for me. I do stand up for you. When you let your mother uninvite me. When you called me dramatic for being hurt? When you chose her feelings over mine, every single time? He didn't answer. I'm going to finish work and come home. We can talk tomorrow. I hung up. The drive home took forever. Every mile, I questioned myself. Was I being too harsh? Should I have sucked it up, attended the party, kept the peace? But I kept coming back to one simple truth. I deserved better. Michael was waiting in the living room when I got home. He looked smaller somehow, deflated. Mom called again, he said. She really is sorry. She didn't realize she said she didn't understand how hard you've worked. She didn't want to understand. I set down my bag. Your mother has always looked down on me for working. For not coming from money. For building something instead of inheriting it. That's not fair. Isn't it? Name one time she's asked about my business, with genuine interest. One time she's acknowledged my success without implying I should step back and focus on family. I sat across from him. I can name 50 times she's made snide comments about women who work too much. About people who prioritize career over relationships. About new money versus old money. She's from a different generation. So is my mother, and she worked 3 jobs to put me through culinary school. I leaned back, emotionally drained. Michael, I need you to hear me. Really hear me. I have spent 12 years trying to fit into your family. I've smiled through condescending comments. I've written checks I couldn't afford. I've made myself smaller to make everyone else comfortable. And the moment I set a boundary, your first instinct was to tell me I was overreacting. I was wrong. He looked at his hands. I should have defended you. I should have told Mom she was being unreasonable. Yes. You should have. Can we fix this? I thought about that question for a long time. Could we fix a marriage where one person did all the emotional labor, paid all the bills, and received nothing but criticism in return? I don't know, I said honestly. I think we need counseling. Real counseling, not just apologizing and going back to how things were. Okay. Yes, whatever you need. And you need to get a job, Michael. An actual job, not another business idea that I fund. His face flushed. That's not. It is. Your last 3 ventures, I've invested over $60,000. None of them succeeded. And every time I suggested maybe you get a steady income first, you accused me of not believing in you. Because you didn't. I didn't believe in the ideas. There's a difference. I stood, too tired to continue. I'm going to bed. Guest room, like I said. We can talk more tomorrow. Over the next weeks, things changed slowly. Michael started seeing a therapist, his own therapist, separate from the couple's counselor I'd insisted on. He got a job, a real one, as an operations manager for a mid-sized logistics company. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady income and benefits. Margaret sent a formal apology letter. Handwritten, 3 pages long, acknowledging her mistakes. I wrote back, accepting her apology but making clear that our relationship needed new boundaries. The incident became something of an urban legend in Chicago's event industry. Did you hear about Victoria Chen canceling her own mother-in-law's party? I'd overhear vendors whispering at industry events. Some people thought I was vindictive. Others thought I was a hero. I didn't care either way. I'd drawn a line, and for the first time in my marriage, people actually respected it. 6 months later, Azure Catering won the Chicago Business Award for Best Women-Owned Business. Michael attended the ceremony with me, wearing a suit I hadn't paid for, genuinely proud. In his acceptance speech for the Supportive Partner Award, yes, those exist, he publicly apologized for not recognizing my achievements sooner. Margaret wasn't there. But she sent flowers to my office the next day with a card that said, simply, "I'm proud of you." It wasn't perfect. Our relationship never would be. But it was honest, finally. And respect, I'd learned, matters more than perfect. I stood in my office that evening, looking out at the city I'd conquered through sheer determination, and realized something important. I didn't need anyone's permission to take up space. I didn't need to make myself smaller to make others comfortable. I'd built an empire. And I'd protected it the only way I knew how, by refusing to let anyone treat it, or me, as disposable. The phone rang. "Jennifer Morrison. Mrs. Chen? I have a potential client on the line. She specifically requested you. She said she heard about how you handled a difficult family situation and respects your boundaries." I smiled. "Put her through. Because that's the thing about standing up for yourself. Sometimes you lose people. But you always gain respect. And in the end, that's worth more than any party."